When I was working with Camry, the salary we were receiving was okay. And at that time, many institutions was fighting to get our salaries equivalent to Camry.
When we started working in 1959, the salary was very minimal. I can remember I was earning 225 shillings.
Most of high school teachers you found moved to other countries to look for a greener pastures.
There's a time at DC would never want to have his payslip known by anybody, because it was just about 20,000 shillings. By 2004, we had made major strides in terms of matching pay with productivity.
Can you imagine that we are a population of about 45 million? Public servants are not more than 800,000. Now, 800,000 people are consuming 52% of what KRA collects. Is that right? Is that moral? Is that ethical?
You do recall a situation where if you walked into a government office, you actually found nobody to even give you the basic service. You found jackets hanging by the chairs. You could actually come into a reception area and you're sitting on broken seats. That was in. I'm sure by the time you walk through the public offices now, it's a complete turnaround 360 degrees, if you will. Yet, I must confess, we are on a journey, an exciting journey.
It is often said that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And unless that weak link is strengthened and remedied, the chain is worthless. In the Kenyan government, that weak link was an ever-ballooning public sector wage bill. Before the establishment of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission (SRC), the body tasked with the determination of salaries and wages, the Permanent Public Service Remuneration Review Board (PPSRRB) encountered little success.
It was not successful because the advices it used to give were usually being ignored. They never had a legal backing, constitutional position. But this was the foundation upon which SRC was founded because of the weaknesses that were experienced by the pay board.
We were very few and we were working mpaka usiku very late. Na privilege hatukuwa nazo.
This board was more of quick fixes, ad hoc quick fixes. We want a salary, the seat, they give you. You want the other departments wants the seat, and they allocate. And we ended up with disparities. We ended up with inequalities, distortions, inconsistencies, conflicts. Civil servants trying to move to where the pay is more attractive.
Why? Because certain government institutions would habitually and arbitrarily hike their salaries and employment terms.
We didn't have a standard of determining public pay or public remuneration, and the person with the highest voice would actually get the pay improved.
Before I retired, many institutions bypassed Camry in terms of payment.
This situation led to a disproportionate wage bill for different ranks of public servants. Worse still, it overburdened citizenry who paid for the luxuries of state officers through taxes. Clearly, there was lack of adequate legal and institutional framework.
Previously, remuneration has been set just out of strength of collective bargaining, or by knowing someone who can push your cost and have your remuneration go up. So this caused a lot of disparities, especially in payment of jobs that looked like they are the same, or it is alleged that they are the same.
All that, however, changed on the 10th of January 2012 when the Salaries and Remunerations team was sworn into office for the better.
SRC was established under the new constitution, Article 230, one of which leads within the constitution as principles of consideration is to ensure that the annual wage bill is fiscally sustainable.
When Kenya's 2010 constitution came into being, it put a premium on the strengthening of institutions as opposed to a culture where anything goes. On matters of setting the standards for the public wage bill, the Constitution, Article 230, set up the Salaries and Remunerations Commission, SRC, as the only constitutional body mandated to set salaries and perks for all public servants. What exactly is the Commission's mandate?
One is to set and to regularly review remuneration and benefits for all state officers. And state officers are also defined in the Constitution. That, in brief, touches from the President, the legislative arm, the judiciary, and the totality of the state officers as defined. That covers mandate one. So we set and regularly review. And for the second mandate, equally important, is to advise the public, the national government, and the county government on issues of remuneration and benefits for all other public officers.
This mandate is guided by certain underlying principles: fiscal sustainability, the attraction and retention of public servants, productivity and performance, and transparency and fairness.
There was need that SRC be created so that there can be that harmony and Kenyans can once and for all enjoy fairness and equity in terms of remuneration and benefits.
Efficient and effective public service, the country continues to advance. Now that is how we came to the conclusion that the first thing we must address the efficiency of the public service. And we looked at it and found that indeed there are huge, almost unconscionable disparities within the public service.
The issue of sustainability. Is the economy strong enough to support the kind of needs or rather demands that we are making on it? Can the recurrent eat into development? And if it is either development, what is the future of that economy?
Can this economy afford to pay higher salaries? And if not, what needs to be done in order for it to produce more, for us to be able to pay more taxes and therefore enable the government to pay higher salaries? Salaries should not be increased just for the sake of it. There should be a relation to productivity and also to the growth of the economy.
The next frontier for the Commission here is productivity. Because once productivity goes up, what it means, if our GDP currently is 7 trillion, so to say, and it goes to 9 trillion or 10 trillion, the 10% we're talking about in Vision 2030, what that means, the wage bill ratio to GDP goes down. Because we have more money, there's more revenue. And if there's high revenue increase with our wage bill, which is not going to increase as fast, it means there's going to be a decline in those ratios.
And in the sense of productivity, we should look at how can we be able to calculate or come up with a way in which we can be able to determine the productivity index of the public sector. That's an area that we need to look at so that we improve services to the wananchi.
Like a well-oiled machine, the Commission is a sum of its parts, with the Commissioners and the Commission Secretariat playing crucial roles in its operations. The Commission Secretariat is split into directorates and departments that are all important to the meeting of its strategic objectives.
This has helped us a lot because they will digest every demand, every report that comes into the Commission. And that makes it easy for us when we meet as a Commission.
What has been achieved so far?
The awareness. Because people now understand issues of wage bill. Nobody knew that. We had to go around all the counties, the 47 counties, to talk about wage bill. What is the impact of wage bill in the economy of the nation, you know?
The Commission has visited us and they asked us our unique challenges in terms of the staff remuneration, the hardship allowances. Even at the beginning, the Commission set up a limit for the vehicles that can be bought by the county executives.
When we came in, the public wage bill was really high. It was at 54% of the national revenue. 6 years talking, we have reduced it marginally.
We also managed as a commission to reduce the compression ratio from 1 to 58 to 1 to 10. Compression ratio is the ratio between the highest paid state officer and the lowest paid state officers. To do this, we aim to reduce the pay for the highest paid state officers and improve the bottom so that we can get a comfortable compression ratio.
We have brought in a new culture of negotiation. When you look at, for example, the teachers who have been going on strike many times, we now have set up a structure of dialogue which will allow them to negotiate their terms and conditions of service between themselves and the employer. Because as a country, we have recognized that the huge wage bill was not sustainable. And therefore, we had to turn around and find out how best can we not only pay our public servants well, but be able to be productive.
Once sworn in, the Commission settled down to work on the state officers' job evaluation between 2012 and 2013. And in just 6 months, it was all done. 88 jobs evaluated and streamlined to fit a fair and progressive remuneration and benefit structure.
The first job evaluation we undertook was for state officers. That was evaluating from the president all the way to the MCA. In the judiciary, the entire judges all the way to the Kadi court. And we got a value, at least a relative value of each of those positions. And that gave us opportunity to harmonize the wages and to ensure that we close on disparities. I'll give you an example. When we came in, there were permanent secretaries and they were paid different rates. They had the same titles, more or less same jobs, but the values were different. The salaries we set on 2013, we harmonized that so that if you're a permanent secretary, you have an equal pay for work of equal value.
Next, the SRC turned its attention to remunerations for the public service, where the Commission carried out a comprehensive job evaluation and a facilitative allowance study.
I understand that the aim of this exercise is really to harmonize and to streamline pay and benefits in the public sector with a view to ensuring that public money is managed in an effective, efficient, and prudent manner.
The issues of this exercise came along with this, a determined way of grading, so that then I'm able to confirm, depending on the productivity, whether I will then be allowed or facilitated to move to the next grade depending on what I do.
Our members were consulted and they gave them a lot of information. And actually we managed to talk with the consultants that were engaged with the SRC, that's the likes of Deloitte, and they gave us their preliminary analysis and the report. They captured exactly what we had given.
Job evaluation was trying to get a base so that you get jobs that are graded the same, remunerated the same. So you have a basis of comparing because of the disparities that were created from the ad hoc remuneration reviews.
Having ascertained the worth of those jobs, every public servant will get equal pay for work of equal worth, which is what we call for work of equal value.
Above all, it's the engagement with the public and the buy-in from Kenyans, because we kept Kenyans informed, engaged, involved in the work that we were doing.
The in-depth analysis of the public-private sector wage differential carried out in 2013 was highly informative to the creation of a remunerations and benefits policy.
The latest policy document that we generated is the Remuneration and Benefits Policy. Why did we do that? First, it doesn't exist. The central government has never established a policy that then can guide other institutions how to manage remuneration and benefits. Okay, so we come up with policies which are able to guide on issues of remuneration and benefit.
We did have a consultancy with the KIPRA so that they could look at how salaries in public service compare with salaries in the private sectors. Yeah, because you see sometimes the salaries that are paid in the public sector might affect the salaries that are paid in the private sector.
We have produced policy papers and guidelines to help people in decisions when they're coming up with the matters of remuneration. We also have some policy documents that we have passed.
It also highlighted the various other factors other than wage that affect public sector employment. The findings of the facilitative allowances study led to some crucial decisions, with house allowance, hardship allowance, leave allowance and subsistence allowances being harmonized and standardized.
There were too many allowances, and as SRC we actually sat together, and some of the allowances we have now said that they should be part of the job. So some of the allowances have been subsumed in the job evaluations that we have done.
However, the job was not complete with just the study of Kenya's public sector. Comparative studies were carried with the Kenyan private sector and international best practices.
Even when we were setting the salary for state officers in 2013, we did look around so that we could do a fair comparison, so that as we set the salary at that time, we did know what salaries were like in this region, and we did know what salaries were like in America, in Australia.
An international remuneration comparative analysis between Kenya and 9 highly industrialized and comparable African countries revealed that Kenya ranked high when it came to state officers' pay.
When you compare with other African countries, we still pay much higher, particularly the legislative arm. When you compare internationally, we would still say higher. Kenya pays higher. Maybe their levels might be higher, but their economy is stronger. So when you compare that with our economy, definitely we stand at an upper edge when it comes to remuneration.
In June 2015, the job evaluation for the public service, which was divided into 7 clusters, commenced. The results of the exercise were released on 11th November 2016, with over 40,000 of public service jobs evaluated.
Today, we are gathered here to receive, as we have been told, the job evaluation, which has been undertaken by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission with the aim of knowing the worth of jobs in the public sector.
Remuneration review cycles were also harmonized from 2 to 4 years to reflect the need for a breather from the constant agitation for pay review.
The reviews were short, so it was like the public institutions were always on a negotiating mode. Like when it was 2 years, you do 2 years, you sign a CBA, and you need to start immediately to beat the 2 years deadline. So SRC analyzed this and decided that it was better to have a harmonized review cycle, which was picked to be 4 years.
The public sector itself, they have acknowledged that 4-year cycle, we make sure that we take care of every year, so that there is no year left without an increase. So they are comfortable with that.
A pension review policy was also crafted to regularly reflect the changes in the cost of living.
I retired 2012. In fact, the pension which I received was actually too low.
Social protection in terms of pension scheme should be introduced to all Kenyans and contributory.
There are so many people, very many civil servants who used to be there earlier on, and when you look at their pension, is more or less peanuts. But we are making the situation in such a way that when somebody goes, then at least they'll have a better pension so that they can live on it.
The best policies and directives mean nothing if not enforced. Therefore, the SRC has put mechanisms in place to ensure compliance with the advisories issued.
From what we know, the courts have already ruled that advice is not just advice that you take or leave, it is actually binding. So I would say that without a body such as SRC, the salaries that we are paying now would probably have been even higher and maybe not sustainable for this economy.
When SRC carries out the compliance checks, the control of budget ensures that all non-compliance or all those areas where the spending entities do not comply with the guidelines issued by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission are actually addressed. So we assist SRC to ensure that all areas where the counties are not complying with their guidelines are addressed.
The Commission has also engaged the county governments variously over its term.
We've been meeting with the SRC, especially the first level discussion with the doctors. I was involved. Even the nurses strike, the first strike of nurses before they came back and again went on strike, we had discussions with SRC and we agreed with them. The latest are discussions with clinic officers and others, and SRC was involved. I have seen that the way they work, they have very good leadership and they are very, very clear on what they are doing and they are not intimidated.
One of the issues that the Public Service Board is assigned to do is that as it hires, it should be able to also advise the staff on their wage, their remuneration. Where there are cases where there is need for reconsideration, then we'll be able to work with the Salary and Remuneration Commission in terms of what is it that we can be able to pay such people. So that's the linkage we have.
I think they've played a key role in terms of giving guidance to the various organs, both at the county and the national, in terms of remunerating our officers, just to ensure that they are remunerated accordingly based on the work they do.
We have been getting circulars from the SRC through the county secretary offices, which has really assisted us through guiding us through human resources.
They have been able to bring clarity of purpose in terms of how the various public service employees should be remunerated. The administration of also salaries in terms of even doing audit to see that what is supposed to be on the respective infrastructure of payment is actually what is happening on the ground. They have also been able to ensure that public service officers appreciate that there is a separation between now the employing agency, the Public Service Commission, and the SRC.
The Commission has made strides in the execution of its mandate and has remained steadfast and committed, the well-being of the Kenyan citizenry being central to the SRC's decision-making. This is all in line with the goals of Kenya's Vision 2030.
If you look at the enablers of Vision 2030, one of the key enablers, which we also call foundations, is public service reforms. And by looking at the job evaluation, the salary structures, the remuneration scales, as well as the allowances, SRC is helping in that public sector reforms. In the political pillar of Vision 2030, we are talking about good governance. And good governance would be promoted if the public sector has members of staff who are properly remunerated in ways which are harmonious and which reflect the kind of work that they do.
You can't achieve the Vision 2030 with an unsustainable wage bill. So the interest of SRC is to ensure that we bring it down so that you channel all other revenues towards development.
It is important to bear in mind that the SRC has to ensure the wage bill does not have adverse effects on development and therefore does not translate into a debt burden for future generations.
When we come up with the structures for salaries and wages, we take into consideration that the generations to come, we should not leave them with liabilities. We should be able to have set assets that even as our forefathers set for us. So we need to be able to do that, not to eat everything and not have enough to develop and take the country forward.
Though the SRC has so far faced rough times in the execution of its mandate, it is hard to imagine life without it.
We have a number of cases in court. We've been battling literally every month in court to face some of the challenges that we've had to battle with in terms of enforcing our mandate and stamping it so that everybody understands that this mandate of SRC is not an SRC individual creations. It's the creation of the very same citizenship, because they wanted to see a situation where the resources of this nation is spread across.
You can see also issues like strikes. You know, every other institution for whom we advise on salaries and their changes are where SRC does not meet the demands that they want. They all agitate and rise up, and we have all sorts of strikes.
There are areas which are very challenging, especially maternity, where patients will come whether they are on strike or not, because a baby will not wait. The baby does not know you are on strike.
Our salaries affect our working, definitely. I find myself really straining.
Wafanyakazi wa serikali wakigoma, hasa walimu na madaktari, ina affect kabisa. Sasa sisi wafugaji naweza kuonjeka, nipeleke hospitali, hakuna daktari. Je, nani atanitibu?
Vile walimu wamegoma, watoto wanakula breakfast, lunch, supper. Sasa ni gharama kwa wazazi.
Wakati last year walikuwa wamestrike walimu, mtihani ilikuwa nataka kufanyika KCSE na KCP. Hata mtihani walimuka mbaya sana.
I've always wondered, must this teacher go on the road with twigs and leaves and branches in order to be paid? Really?
We have faced challenges with the union, which think the commission has come to interfere with collective bargaining agreements. But on the contrary, the commission is streamlining the collective bargaining agreement phases.
From inception, there was resistance because people did not want a body that controls issues of remuneration and benefits and all this. So the fact that SRC has been able to do its work and get buy-in from Kenyans and have some policy decisions that have been bought into and support from the highest office in this country about the work of the SRC is commendable.
Despite the challenges faced, the Commission still counts on the broader public's support, as it is clear that the SRC has Wanjiku's best interest in mind.
And you must have seen a number of demonstrations by the Kenyans when, SRC's mandate was being threatened. And that was purely out of awareness.
Kwa vile tumesikia mambo ya tume ya mshahara, kwa vile Sara Sarem vile amekata mshahara toka juu mpaka chini, tulifurahia sana na tuliona hiyo pesa kwamba imekatwa inaingia kwa maendeleo kwa account kwa ugatuzi, na wazidi waendeleshe kazi yao mzuri sana.
Sara Sarem's commission has done a good work.
The Commission has also encouraged public participation and sensitization in the actualization of its mandate. More so, in the spirit of transparency, the remuneration and benefits of state officers and public servants are now in the public domain. Pause and wonder, what would the wage bill situation be today without the Salaries and Remuneration Commission?
Prior to the Constitution, There was no streamlined, methods of or policies of ensuring that remuneration in the public service was harmonized. So each individual institution was left to decide on their own. There was, hue and cry from the entire public.
If we allow the total wage bill to go above or to go to levels that are not sustainable, then this country may come to a standstill because the salaries will be completely unsustainable.
So if there is no central agency responsible for salaries, you can imagine that 47 counties will also be applying their own principles the way they deem in setting salaries in the counties. This will be chaotic, and so I think Kenya has done the right thing to get a central institution like SRC and make SRC responsible for setting compensation in the country.
2011 to 2017 has been an exciting and eventful period for the Commission, with undoubtedly more highs than lows. Much too has been achieved.
We created a remuneration package for the state offices, and it is in place and it is working today.
The SRC's mandate is yet to be fully executed though. Consequently, the Commission has laid out a blueprint for its future endeavours. Its singular goal is to do better hence.
The fruits of it, now that our constitution protects the wages, as people come in and leave organizations, we are able in about 5 to 10 years, at most 15 years, to reach at the equilibrium level of pay where the economy can afford.
At the back of our minds that things would have been worse without SRC. We have made an impact that the Kenyans have appreciated.
We at SRC will strive to serve Kenyans and will strive to ensure that the mandate of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has been well set, well articulated and well delivered to all Kenyans.
Therefore, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission journey continues.
Tupange kazi tujenge nchi. Tupange kazi tujenge nchi. Tupange kazi tujenge nchi.